I'm 103 years old, and every morning I do the same thing I've done for 70 years. I get up at 6, walk to the kitchen, and make coffee. 3 cups. Every morning. My first cardiologist told me coffee would kill me. That was 1978. He died in 1979. My second cardiologist said the same thing, only louder. And he banged his fist on the desk to make sure I understood. He's gone too. And he went before me. I'm not gloating, God forbid. Those were decent men. That's just the fact of it. I'm still here, and they're not. Now you're probably thinking this old man is about to tell you coffee is some kind of medicine. I'm not. I'm not trying to prove anything to anybody. I'm just going to tell you what happened to me, and you can make up your own mind. I spent my whole working life as a health inspector for the county. 30 years walking through restaurant kitchens, checking what people were eating and drinking, signing paperwork. I saw things that would make a reasonable person stop eating altogether. And the whole time, I drank 3 cups of black coffee every single day, starting in 1954. No sugar, no milk, no fuss. Just coffee. My wife Beatrice never touched coffee. Not once in her life. She'd been told when she was young to watch her heart, and she took that to heart, if you'll forgive the expression. While I made my 3 cups every morning, she'd be over at the counter with her herbal tea, watching me with the look of a woman watching someone walk slowly towards a moving train, thinking there's still time to stop him, but he keeps walking. I used to say, "B, I'm an inspector. I know what food does to people. Coffee is nowhere near the worst thing I've seen." She'd say, "Clarence, you're an inspector, not a doctor." And she was right about that. I was never a doctor, never claimed to be. In 1978, I was 55, and they sent me in for a routine heart checkup. The cardiologist was a young man, confident, striped tie, the kind of man who talks like he already knows how the sentence ends. He looked at my numbers and said, "Mr. Booth, you need to stop all caffeine immediately. With your blood pressure, you're looking at a heart attack." He said it the way you'd tell someone to stop smoking inside a burning building. No options. Non-negotiable. I nodded, thanked him, walked out. And the next morning, I made 3 cups. Every morning. 70 years. I understood something that day that I couldn't have put into words right then. I'd been drinking that coffee for 30 years. My body knew it. It was part of how mornings worked. And no paper with a diagnosis on it was going to change what was true every day in my own kitchen. It wasn't rebellion. It was just my life. But Donna, my daughter, she's 74 now. She took that cardiologist's words personally. Every time I reached for a cup, she'd give me the same look Beatrice used to give me. Except Donna also sent articles. Every week, without fail. "Dad, look at this. Caffeine and heart failure. Dad, new study on blood pressure. Dad, do you really need that?" I love her. She's a good person. But I never opened a single one of those articles. Not even once. There were years, especially after Beatrice passed, and that was 2003. She was 91, went quietly in her sleep, where I cut back for a few weeks. Not because the doctors had convinced me, just because mornings without her felt different. Because making 3 cups and drinking alone is a different conversation entirely. I got quieter, more careful, like I'd turned the volume down on myself. That was worse than any diagnosis. I have a friend named Morton. He's 101 years old now, and we've known each other since 1962. In 1987, his doctor told him to quit coffee. Morton did exactly that. He's always been a disciplined man, former military, used to following orders. He quit in a single day, cold. And about a year later, we were sitting out on his porch together, and he was looking at my cup the way a man looks at someone else's freedom. And he said, "Clarence, I am not one bit healthier. I'm just a lot more boring." Morton is 101 years old. He still regrets it. I've watched people take everything they enjoyed out of their lives, one thing at a time. First coffee, then salt, then red meat, then leaving the house. They lived like the illness had already arrived, and they were just waiting on the official paperwork. They'd wake up every morning, and the first thought was, "What's dangerous today?" They skipped trips. They skipped gatherings. They skipped their grandkids' events. Doctor said not to overdo it. Doctor said take it easy. Take it easy. What a strange thing to tell a person. Like you're already fragile. You do that too? Or someone you love does? I'm not judging anybody. I'm just asking. I watched it with Beatrice. She was a smart woman, a strong woman, and she lived to 91. And that's a good life. Nobody's arguing that. But the last 10 years or so, she was always protecting something. I won't make that trip. Too much sitting. I won't go. Too many people. No, that's too rich. She lived to 91, careful every single day. And I honestly don't know if those were her best years. I never asked her. I ran out of time to ask. And my cup of coffee every morning was telling me, "You're still here. You're still the same man." 3 cups every morning since 1954. About a year and a half after Beatrice died, Donna still wanted me to move in with her. Trevor, my grandson, he was around 27 then, and he'd come by on weekends sometimes to fix things around the house. And he'd look at me with that careful look young people get when they don't know what to say to a widowed grandfather. One morning he walked in and found me sitting at the kitchen table with my coffee, looking out the window. He'd already heard all of Donna's warnings about caffeine and the heart, so I figured he was going to say something cautious and kind. Instead, he asked, "Grandpa, did she drink coffee?" I said, "No, never. She was afraid to." He sat with that for a minute, quiet. Then he said, "And you've been drinking it this whole time." It wasn't some deep philosophical thing. He was just a young man stating what he saw. But I sat there a long time after, with an empty cup, thinking, that's exactly right. I've been drinking this since before anyone told me I shouldn't. and I kept drinking it for 25 years after they told me to stop. Beatrice never had a single cup, and she's gone, and I'm here, making coffee at 6 in the morning. That doesn't mean coffee saved me and caution took her, Lord no. She left at 91, in her sleep, without pain. All it means is this: following the rules doesn't come with a guarantee. Not one. That cardiologist with the striped tie didn't make it either. Beatrice made it to 91 following every instruction she was ever given. I made it to 103, ignoring half of them. Neither of us knows why. But what I understood that morning was simple enough. I was done making myself smaller out of fear. I was around 81 years old, and I decided the next morning would start the same way every morning had started since 1954. 3 cups. Every morning. 70 years. The second cardiologist came along in 1992, when I was 69. Younger than the first one, angrier. Mr. Booth, you have to understand, at your age caffeine is a serious strain on the heart. I'm insisting on this. He insisted. I smiled, shook his hand, and left. He died in 2010. I was 87, and I read his obituary over my morning coffee. No gloating, just drank my cup. Donna still sends articles. The last one came in November, something about caffeine and heart rhythm in people over 80. I'm 103.
I don't think that particular study had me in mind. I called her and said, "Donna, I read it." That was a lie, but why upset her? My great-granddaughter, Lily, she's 9 years old. She comes and sits with me in the mornings while I drink my coffee. She doesn't drink coffee. She's 9. She has orange juice. And she asks questions. One morning she asked, "Grandpa, why is coffee so bitter?" I said, "Because the good things usually are." She thought about it and said, "Like spinach?" I said, "No, spinach is just bad." She laughs. I laugh. That's the best part of the day, right there. You want to know what it means to get up at 6 in the morning when you're 103? It means something hurts every single morning. The knees, the back, sometimes something I can't even name. Just a dull ache somewhere deep that doesn't announce itself. But I get up, I walk to the kitchen, and while the coffee brews, maybe 5 minutes, I hear the house waking up. Sometimes Lily's already at the table. Sometimes she isn't. But I make the coffee either way. Morton called me last week. He's 101. He lives in a care home in the next town over, and he still doesn't drink coffee. We talked for half an hour, and at the end he said, "You know, Clarence, 37 years without it, and I cannot tell you one difference. Not one." I said, "So what was the point?" He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "That doctor was very convincing." That's exactly it. My cardiologist now is a woman, probably 45 or so. She checks me once a year, and every single time she looks at my numbers with this expression, like she studied a language for years and never expected to hear a native speaker. One visit she asked, "Mr. Booth, you're still drinking coffee?" I said, 3 cups, every morning, since 1954. She made a note. I don't know what she wrote down. Something interesting, I'd imagine. In 2021, Donna organized
what I can only describe as a family intervention on behalf of my coffee. Her, Trevor, and his wife Angela, all three of them at my kitchen table with serious expressions. Donna put a printed article on the table in front of me. Trevor said, "Grandpa, we're just worried." Angela said nothing, which told me she was the smart one in the room. Donna said, "Dad, you're 98 years old. 3 cups a day is too much. The doctor agrees." I asked, "Which doctor?" She gave me the name. I said, "He saw me once, in 2019, and I was in perfectly fine health." Donna said, "Dad, please." And that's when I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Real doubt. Not about the coffee, but about myself. What if they're right? What if 98 is a different story than 69? That night I lay there thinking, maybe what worked for 50 years doesn't work anymore, and I'm just too stubborn to see it. Maybe they look at me and they see something I can't see in myself. Maybe that first cardiologist with the striped tie was right all along, and I only outlived him by sheer luck. And luck doesn't hold forever. I was awake almost until dawn. Then, in the morning, Lily came in. She was 4 years old then, just starting to really talk properly, and she asked, "Grandpa, did you have your coffee yet?" Just like that, the way a child asks a simple question. I said, "Not yet, Lily. I'm about to make it." She nodded like the matter was now settled and went back to play. I looked at Donna and said, "I hear you, but I'm not asking anyone else to do what I do. I'm just doing what I've always done." The next morning I got up at 6, made the coffee. 3 cups, same as always, same as tomorrow. Maybe I'm just lucky. But luck doesn't last 70 years. I'm 103 years old. This morning I got up at 6, made my coffee, and Lily sat beside me with her orange juice and told me something about school. I didn't catch every word. At 103, your mind wanders a little. But I heard her voice. That was enough. 3 cups, every morning, 70 years. Both my cardiologists are gone. Beatrice, who never touched coffee her entire life, left at 91. Morton, who quit cold in his 60s, calls me every week from his care home and still regrets it. And I make coffee at 6 in the morning and watch Lily, who is 9 years old, and think, that's why I get up. Now you're reading this, and maybe you've got something forbidden in your own life. Something you've been told to cut out by a doctor, by your family, by something you read online, or the neighbor who did her research. And you look at your forbidden thing and you think, maybe they're right. Maybe I really shouldn't. I'm not telling you to ignore your doctor. Do you hear me? I'm not saying that. I'm saying something different. There is a difference between listening to your doctor and letting fear become your whole personality. There's a difference between being careful and spending the last 20 years of your life waiting for a disaster that might never come. Beatrice protected her heart every day she lived. I protected something else, the part of mornings that made them worth getting up for, the thing that told me I was still myself. And I'm 103. That doesn't mean I was right and she was wrong. It only means nobody knows. Nobody. And since nobody knows, maybe you might as well get some enjoyment out of what you have. I'm not your doctor. I'm an old man who's 103 years old and drinks coffee. That's the only thing I can tell you for certain. I'm 103. I've outlived 2 cardiologists, seen 1 war, spent 30 years inspecting restaurant kitchens that had seen everything, and had 47 years of a happy marriage with a woman who looked at my coffee cup with equal parts horror and love every single morning.
And tomorrow, I'll do the same thing I did today. Because Lily will come in with her orange juice. Because that first cup at 6 in the morning is the one thing in this world nobody has ever managed to take from me. And because living with your hand up waiting for permission is no kind of life. Not even when you're 103. Especially when you're 103. 3 cups every morning. 70 years. And tomorrow will be no different.